Welcome to today's lesson on 8.5i. Our lesson target is I will write equations in the form y equals mx plus b to model a linear relationship between two amounts. And our essential question is, how can we figure out the dependent and independent variables from a verbal description? So let's go ahead and answer this essential question. So our dependent variable is going to be our y, and an easy way to remember that is y comes after x in our alphabet, right? So x is independent because x does not depend on the y, but y does depend on the x. And some tricks to remember independent is variables such as time, like whether it's in seconds, minutes, hours, days, are usually independent, right? Because time goes on, it doesn't wait for anyone. But dependent variables will be things such as miles traveled or money earned. And it could even include like number of people. Okay, so now we're going to go into going over our vocabulary. So our first word is constant rate of change. So our constant rate of change is actually the same thing as our slope. So that's just another word that can be used interchangeably with slope, right? So we have slope, rate of change, constant of proportionality, constant of variation that we've learned so far, as well as unit rate. Those are all the same things. So of course, m represents our slope in our non-proportional relationship. Our next vocabulary word is linear equation. So that's an equation between two variables that is a straight line when graphed. So y equals mx plus b is a type of non-proportional equation, but of course we've learned that y equals kx is a proportional linear equation, right? So for linear relationships, we have two, non-proportional and proportional, that we've talked about. And linear relationships are a straight line relationship between two variables, usually x and y, right? So those are the two equations we just went over. Nonlinear relationships are relationships between two variables that do not have a constant rate of change, right? So they wouldn't have a k, they wouldn't have an m. And then we have slope-intercept form, which is the equation of a straight line in the form of y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So that is shown right here. And remember that the slope is our direction and steepness of a line, right? So how much we're going up or down and how much we're going to the right or left. And lastly, our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is the point where a line intersects or goes through the y-axis. So for example, this right here, 0, comma b, b would be the y-intercept. And in this case, our b or our y-intercept is 3. Okay, so we have our activity. This activity reads, Angela charges $35 an hour for tutoring services plus a $5 travel fee if she has to go to the student's house. Number 1, we have to name the quantities that are changing in this problem solution. So we have to figure out our x and our y, basically. So the things that are changing. So over here we have hours, that number of hours, and I have to decide, is my number of hours my x or my y? Well, based on what I said earlier about time usually being independent or our x, the number of hours is going to be our x. And then our y is going to be the money that she made, right? Because she's not just tutoring for fun, she's tutoring for money. And then 2 says, name the quantities that remain constant. So the $5 travel fee is actually going to be our constant, because she either gets the fee or not, right? So if she has to travel, she gets a fee. If she doesn't have to travel, if the student goes to her, then she doesn't get the fee. Okay, so number 3, we have to combine the pieces of information, and it says write an equation for the amount Angela charges, assuming she must travel to the student's house. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we have y is equal to, we know that x is the number of hours, and we know that she gets paid $35 an hour, so it's 35x plus the travel fee, because in this case it says she travels to the student's house. And then number 4, it says if Angela made $75 and traveled to the student's house, how many hours does she tutor? So we're working backwards. We're trying to find the x value essentially. So we know that 75 is going to be the money made, so that's our y. So we have y is equal to 35. We don't know what the number of hours that she tutored is. So we're going to just leave that as x plus the 5 because she did travel to the student's house. So now to solve this, I have to work backwards. I need to first move the 5. To do that, we have plus 5. So the opposite of adding 5 is going to be subtracting 5. We're subtracting 5 on both sides. Then from here, we have 75 minus 5, which is going to be 70. And then 5 minus 5 is 0, so that's a 0 pair. So 70 is equal to 35x. So from here, I'm going to rewrite the 70 is equal to 35x, so I have more room on the side. I know that I have to move the 35 to the other side. And to do that, I can see that I'm multiplying 35 times x, so I have to do the opposite. The opposite of multiplying is dividing, so I'm dividing both sides by 35. So then my last step is we have x is equal to 70 divided by 35. 70 divided by 35 is 2. We know that x is the number of hours, so our answer is 2 hours. So Angela tutored for 2 hours to make the $75. And then our next problem, or the next part, says Miss Jackson translates books for a living. She decides to change her fees to keep up with the cost of living, right? So inflation. So she's charging a different amount, probably a higher amount for how much time she's spending. She will charge an initial fee of $325 to manage each project and $25 per page of translated text. So actually, it's not for the amount of time she's spending. It's for the pages that she's translating. Ms. Jackson does not consider partial pages in her fees. Okay, so then number 5 reads, name the quantities that changed. Okay, so we're looking for the quantities that change in this problem solution. So again, I'm identifying my x and my y. So in this case, the thing that changes is the number of pages, right? Because the more pages she translates, the more money she makes. And then our y is going to be the money that she made because, again, she's not doing this for free. And I know that the word each might confuse us because we've learned that per, each, every represents the slope, right? But over here, we have the number 25 in front of the word per. Each goes with the initial fee of $325. But if she just does one project, she gets that constant fee of the $325. That's the, amount that she gets. On top of that, she gets paid for how many pages she translates, right? So for number 6, to answer the next question, name the quantities that remain constant. The quantity that remains constant is that price per project, that $325 initial fee. Okay, then number 7 reads, which quantity depends on the other? So the key word is depends, right? Dependent. We know that our dependent variable is our y. So if we look back, we see that the money made is our dependent variable. So the money made, or the amount that she charges, right, if that's how you want to think about it, depends on the number of pages. Okay, so we have our I do. It says the West Main Street Office Rentals Company has monthly rates of 600 square feet for $750 and 900 square feet for $1,150. So square feet, 750, 900 square feet, 1,150. We have to write an equation in the slope-intercept form for the rent at West Main Street Office Rentals, right? So we have to define the variables for the equation, x and y. What is our input? What is our output? Or what is our dependent variable? What is our independent variable? So the two things that are changing are the square feet and the price, right? Or the money. Well, I have to think about it. Does the price depend on the square feet or does the square feet depend on the price? Well, that doesn't make sense. So I know that the price has to depend on the square feet, right? So the price or the money, it depends on the square feet or the square footage. Okay, from here, if you guys remember, our strategy, we've mostly just been making tables, right? Every time we have to write an equation. So of course, for this problem, we're gonna make a table. So our square footage is our x value, our price is our y value. So the first point or the first ordered pair we have is gonna be 600 and then 750. And then the next one is going to be 900 and 1,150. So from here, we have to find our slope and our y-intercept. So as a reminder, the slope is the letter m. So our formula to find the slope is going to be our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. To make it easier for us to go ahead and do the calculations, I'm going to go ahead and label my points in the table. So my 600 is my x1, because it's my first x value. My 750 is my y1. It's my first y value. My 900 is my x2. It's my second x value. My 1150 is my y2. It's my second y value. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the numbers. Y2 minus y1. We have 1150 minus 750 on top. And then on bottom, we have our 900 minus 600. So now we got to do some math. We have 1150 minus 750, and that's going to be 400. And then we have 900 minus 600, which is going to be 300. And then from here, we have to simplify this, right? So if we wanted to simplify this fraction, an easy way to do that is we see that there's zeros on top and bottom, and you can only do this with zeros. You can't do this with any other number. So we can cross out the zeros because each zero represents a number in the tens place, right? So we have tens, hundreds. So basically we just divided 400 and 300 divided by 100 because there's two zeros. Okay, so that means that 400 divided by 300 can be simplified to 4 over 3. And if we wanted to turn this into a decimal, we could by dividing. Next, I have to find my y-intercept. So this is the part that a lot of students get confused about. They get messed up on, right? So the first thing that we have to do is start writing the equation with the slope that we have. We have y is equal to 4 over 3x. We don't know what our b is, right? So that's what we're going to have to work backwards to find. So then we have y is equal to 4 over 3x plus b. Well, to find our b, I have to go ahead and choose an x and a y, right? Because I have to plug in other numbers to work backwards to find our b. So I'm going to use this first point right here, the 600 and the 750. So our y value that I'm going to use is the 750. Then we have is equal to 4 over 3. Our x value is the 600 plus b. So then I'm going to go ahead and bring down the 750 because I can't do anything with that right now. But I do see that I have 4/3 times 600. So that is going to be 800. So we have 800 plus b. Then from here, I have to move the 800. So how do I move the 800? Well, I see that I'm adding it. So to do the opposite, I'm going to subtract it. And then we have 800 minus 800, which is a zero pair. So then we have b is equal to, then we have 750 minus 800, that is negative 50. So now I figured out my y-intercept is negative 50. So of course, my final thing that I have to do is I have to add that into the equation. So we have y is equal to 4 over 3x plus negative 50. That is one way to write the equation. Another way to write the equation is y is equal to 4 over 3x minus 50. So we don't even need that plus negative, right? And then of course we could always flip it so that our y-intercept comes first and then our slope comes second. So I could always write it as y is equal to negative 50 plus 4 over 3x. Okay, so then I'm going to review how we do this on Desmos. So remember, we have to start by making a table, right? So we're going to go to the plus, we're going to go to the table. I'm going to go ahead and input the points. So that was 600. And then we have 750. And then the next point was 900. And we have 1150. So then we have to type in our equation to work backwards to find our m and our b, right? So we have y1, because in our table, we don't just have y, we have y1, right? So then we have y1. I can't put the equal to sign because I'm trying to solve for something. So I'm going to put the tilde. We have m. Then we have x1, because again, in our table, we don't just have x, we have x1 plus b. Then from here, I can see my m is 1 over 1.3333. My b is the negative 50. So the slope that we got was 4 over 3. So I'm just going to double check that our slope is correct. And you can see that 4 over 3 is equivalent. It's equal to that 1.333. Okay, so then we have another WeDo. So this WeDo is going to focus on finding the y-intercept because a lot of people have an easy time finding the slope. They understand the formula. They understand how to plug it in. Sometimes they mess up on the math, but the y-intercept is something that a lot of people get stuck on. So this problem says a construction company charges $25 per hour for debris removal plus a one-time fee for the use of a trash dumpster. The total fee for 7 hours of service is $295. We have to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form to find the total fee y for any number of hours x. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is define the variables. What depends on what, right? And so it actually tells us in this problem. It tells us that our y is our total fee. And then our x is going to be the number of hours. Okay, so from here, I actually don't have to make a table because they give us our slope. The amount that they charge per hour tells us that we're multiplying, right? That's our x. And the number in front of that is 25. So that means our slope is 25. Then our y-intercept, the starting value, the initial amount, those are keywords for y-intercept, is going to be unknown right now. Okay, so in this case, that's going to be the one-time fee for the use of the trash dumpster. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and start to write an equation. We have 5 is equal to 25x, and it's going to be plus b because we're working backwards to solve the b. So we actually are given a point here. We have the number 7, we have the number 295. We know that x is the number of hours, so 7 is going to be our x value. And then we have 295 is going to be our y value because that is the total fee. So of course, all we're going to do is plug in this point, plug in the numbers into this equation. So our y is 295 is equal to 25 times our x is 7 plus b. Okay, so from here we have 295 is equal to, so we're going to do the 25 times 7, and that is 175 plus b. And then from here, to move the 175, we're going to subtract. Since we see that we were adding and we got to do the opposite. So we have 295 minus 175 is going to be 120. And then obviously 175 minus 175 is a 0 pair. So if b is equal to 120. So now that I know that my y-intercept, that one-time fee for the use of the dumpster, is going to be $120, I'm going to go ahead and add that to my equation. So we have y is equal to 25x plus 120. Okay, and that is pretty much it for today's lesson. The rest of it is you-dos and independent practices. Thank you so much for following along today's lesson, and see you in the next one.